So if you are starting with an essential oil today, go ahead and add it. Again, such a great way to get us connected. So I'm going to start with cedar wood. So cedar wood, warm, kind of woody scent, really connected to the earth element, which is what we're going to be focusing on today. Helps to soothe the body and the mind and promotes a relaxing environment. So any of the woody scents, the earthy scents really help to connect to the root chakra and help us to relax. I love the smell of cedarwood. Reminds me of a sauna. So take a couple of big breaths in and out. Wherever you're at, using oil, using not, just hands at the heart center, maybe resting on your lap, maybe resting on your knees. Allowing the eyes to close and connecting to a nice, soft, relaxing breath. Now, in today's practice, we'll continue our journey of self-care with today's self-care tip number 10, which is to create a journal and sit in a space of contemplation. So, which is what I'm going to encourage you to do today in each one of these postures, is to just allow your mind to just sit in contemplation. What happens, what comes up. And then almost even in your mind today, even visualize yourself writing some of those thoughts down in a journal. Now, what journaling does is journaling helps you get the thoughts, maybe emotions down on paper. And there's just something about getting it out through the hand and releasing them. So for some people, it's very therapeutic. It's very relaxing. Expand the creative mind. So I encourage you now to set your intention for the practice, allowing it to be focused on staying present, maybe dedicating your practice to an area of your body or an emotion or a feeling, or maybe dedicating your practice to someone else. Now, in today's practice, we will explore the spleen and stomach meridian again. This meridian is very much related to the element of earth. So I want you to really feel the sit bones connecting to Mother Earth right now. Maybe even visualize cords of light energy just making its way and connecting down to the core center of the earth. Now, this meridian controls digestion and distribution and is also connected to the emotions of anxiety and equanimity. So notice in what state that you're in right now. And use this practice to release any anxiety and tension you might be holding. Allowing you to connect to universal energy, source, divine, creator, God, whatever it is that you choose to think of it as. And just pass over that anxiety, just passing it along, trusting that everything is okay in this moment, which it is. Now, in the next breath, if you can keep your eyes closed, do so. We're going to slowly move on to the hands and knees. Coming into child's pose, knees nice and wide, toes together, and then directly right into a twist. So from here, left hand underneath the right arm, extending the right arm overhead, allowing the head to come down to the ground. So you can open into that right side as much as possible. Starting with that nice gentle rotation. So we're going to start and end our practice in a rotation today. which is going to help encourage digestion. So while we're in this posture, I want you to really breathe into the spleen and the stomach. And just allow the belly to fall to the ground. And that's kind of the area of the Manipura chakra, or the solar plexus chakra, which is what this meridian is also connected to. Remember, the Manipura or solar plexus chakra connected to your personal power. And not surprising that the spleen and the stomach are connected to that chakra because they're in the same area of the body. So maybe right now visualizing the color yellow just to help you stay focused on that energy. And if you just had dinner, maybe you've had something to eat before the practice, just send your breath to the stomach right now as it's working hard to break down the food that you ate. And of course, to distribute it around the body so the body can absorb the nutrients. On the next breath, take that right arm just underneath the shoulder, right hand under the shoulder, and slowly begin to rise. From here, we're just going to transition right over to the other side. So the right arm is now going to go underneath the left, extending that left arm overhead, letting the head rest down. Now, if the knees are starting to get a little bit uncomfortable being in this kind of bent position, you can bring your hips up a little bit. So it's more of that puppy pose. So hips can be higher if that feels good on the knees or better on the knees. So making sure you're making any adjustments that you need to so that you can relax. Because what we're looking for, remember, in this yin yoga is relaxation of the body as much as possible so that we can get deep into the connective tissue and the muscles. Remember, as we're here in these long holds, focusing that breath and just really, the only thing you need to do right now is just release. So let everything release and let go. On the next breath, take that left hand underneath the right shoulder and slowly begin to rise onto the hands and knees. Now from here, we're going to transition into dragon pose. So taking that right leg forward, starting maybe up with the elbows onto the knees, dropping into those hips, and just feel that extension in the hips, letting the hip flexors lengthen. Now, of course, you can take your hands to the ground at any time if you wish, or you can come further up to kind of more of an upright position. So play around with this pose and see what feels better. Remember, the spleen and stomach are the two organs that are directly related to our diet. So to take care of the mind, body, and soul, it's always really important that we are nourishing our body with really great whole, fresh foods. So kind of maybe make a commitment to yourself that, or maybe an affirmation saying, I feed my body with pure whole foods, or something like that. Something that kind of gets deep into that subconscious level, especially if food is kind of a struggle for you, as it is for a lot of people. You kind of start to affirm that you choose high quality, high nutrient dense foods. And even if we can start to see ourselves eating those foods and thinking and getting our subconscious mind to crave those nourishing foods, we'll often make better choices. Got about 1 more minute left in this hold, so if you want to come a little deeper, maybe the hands down to the ground if you're not already there, great time to do it. And of course, you can also come even deeper if you want to come down to the elbows. Maybe you've got a bolster close by, or maybe you just want to go right down to the ground. That's okay too. On the next breath, slowly begin to push the hips back, lengthen into the front leg just for a moment. Stay in that forward fold over top of that front leg. Starting to feel this now in the back of the hamstring. And then from here, coming back to the hands and knees and just coming back into child's pose for a breath or two, extending into the arms, letting the head flow to the floor. And on the next breath, slowly begin to rise up, coming forward with that left foot, coming into dragon pose in whichever position you prefer, starting maybe on the elbows and dropping down into the pose, lengthening into those hip flexors. While you're here, start to breathe deep into the spleen. So it's kind of, just think about it as being underneath the rib cage. I want you to breathe into that area. This is the site where many white blood cells, which fight infection, kind of trap unwanted things in the body and then release them as waste. So really helping the immune system keep you healthy. Of course, when and if you're ready, hands down to the ground, elbows to the ground, getting that position that works best for you. Another 30 seconds here, just a few more breaths. When you're ready, start to slowly push your hips back, straighten into that front leg. Getting that nice length on the hamstring. And on the next breath, coming into just hands and knees for a moment, maybe wiggling those hips around a little bit from side to side. And from here, let's come into 90-90 pose. So we're going to sit on the right hip, allowing that right leg to come forward in front of you. So we want to have, remember, we're looking for 90 degrees in the hip, the knee right underneath the chest, 90 degrees in the knee, 90 degrees in the ankle. And then the left leg off to the other side, 90 degrees in the hip, 90 in the knee, and then 90 in the ankle. So from here, we're going to start to lean into that stretch. So coming into just over top of that front leg, allowing yourself to come down as far as you feel you can. Maybe that's resting your head on stacked hands, maybe on the floor, on a block, and just really loosening up into that hip. As you settle into this pose, start to visualize the spleen meridian. Runs all the way basically from the big toe to the root of the tongue. So as you breathe, almost feel like it's the kind of waves of an ocean, or almost massaging or wakening up that meridian. Sending your breath all the way down to the big toe and then allowing the breath to flow up to the tongue. The deeper, the slower, the longer the breath, the more you'll be relaxed and the more benefits you'll receive. rise. And of course, we want to move nice and slow, slower than you think you want to or need to. And we'll just flip right over to the other side. So whichever way that's easier for you, maybe just turning and switching over to your left, or maybe swinging the legs around, finding that same position on this side, taking that few moments though, never being in a hurry to kind of get down into the pose, taking your time to really set the legs up properly, taking a look at the joints, making sure everything's set up in the way we want it to be set up. That way you can make sure that when you're in the pose, you'll get the maximum benefits. And of course, when you're ready, slowly making your way down into that posture on this side, whatever that looks like for you. Always taking your time though, like never forcing. Kind of sometimes that ego brain can get in the way, thinking, oh, I need to look this way or do it this way, where sometimes if we just take a step back, let the ego sit down for a moment and stay out of your way, you start to really realize, wait a minute, my body doesn't really want to go there right now, right? Or my body can go there. I don't need to be scared and hold myself back. Now, while you're in this side, in this posture, holding, focus your breath onto the stomach meridian, which begins next to the nose and goes right down all the way to the second toe. So again, a nice long line from basically the top to the bottom of our body. And of course, as we open up this flow of energy, we tend to encourage better digestion, and really just help support the body. People have a lot of stomach issues these days, and yes, a lot of the times it can be a physical issue, but often, I think more often than not, it's often an energetic issue. On the next breath, slowly beginning to rise up. Now from here, let's take the legs nice and wide into butterfly pose. So legs right out, as wide as you can, making any adjustments to get that nice length into the inner thighs. Starting by sitting up nice and tall, maybe even in the hands behind you, just to get that hip in the right position. So we do want the hip, rather than kind of be hunched back, we do want the top of that pelvis to be leaning forward. And then whenever or if you're ready, you can take those hands forward and just start to lean into the pose. Again, making sure ego steps aside and just listen to the body. Maybe with every breath, seeing if you can go a little bit deeper. Again, never being in a hurry. This is a great pose too, as if you can get a block under the forehead or a bolster, just letting the head rest. Anytime we can let the head rest, we allow the body to relax a little bit more. On the next breath, slowly begin to rise. Now, as we transition into sleeping swan, it's probably easiest to just turn your shoulders so that they're towards the right-hand side. And then from here, bend that right leg. And then from here, you can just roll up on top and right into sleeping swan. So now we're getting square onto the hips, right knee by the right ankle or right wrist. Sitting up nice and tall to start. So when we sit up tall, we allow those hips to sink down low. Back leg pushes back as far as you possibly can. And then from here, allowing yourself to slowly start to come forward, either on the elbows or eventually making your way down to the floor. Now, one of the main disruptions to healthy stomach chi or energy is diet. So again, breathe into the stomach and energetically and in your mind, focus on just ingesting and eating those great wholesome foods, fresh fruits, vegetables. Supporting the digestion with your breath. And also remembering to send that area of your body some love. Remember, what we focus on is what we attract to ourselves. So if we're always focusing on the negative or something that we hate about ourselves, we're just going to get more of that. But the great news is if we focus on the positive and remind ourselves how much we love our bodies, even in the state that they are in now, more of that will come. More of that, that feeling of love towards your body will begin to come to you. I want you to start to, in your mind, think about whether it's your body or your surroundings or anything else you want to have in your life. Start to really focus on the positive and the things you want or even already have in your life that are amazing, rather than on what you don't have. Remember that energy of lack or scarcity, unfortunately, just produces more lack and scarcity. On the next breath, slowly begin to rise up, maybe starting on the elbows and then making your way to your hands. From here, slowly start to walk your hips forward, maybe using that left toe, coming onto the hands and knees to start making any movements that you need to. Sometimes I like to kind of wiggle things around a little bit after that hold. You get a little tense in the hips. So just take any movements that you feel like you will need to or want to. And then from here, we'll just flow right to the other side. So coming with that left knee to that left wrist, making sure that you begin by shining that chest forward, pushing those hips as low as you can, getting that right leg back as far as possible. And then from here, coming down onto the elbows. And then eventually onto the floor if that feels good. Now on this side, let's breathe into the spleen. As the spleen really affects the spleen health or spleen energy or chi, really affects the synthesis of blood. And when this energy is out of balance, the entire system can be kind of impaired and just impure and disharmonious. So I want you to really focus on breathing that healing, loving energy into the spleen and really into the blood as a whole. Now remember, our body is made up of about around 70% water, and water is very affected by our thoughts and energy. And when we have negative thoughts, it affects the water in our body and our body as a whole. So stay focused, even in this posture, on that positive thinking, focusing on having a healthy body, no matter what state your body is in right now, but just feeling like you have the healthy body that you desire. And just sitting in that energy, using your imagination. Imagination is such a powerful tool that often isn't used enough. But using your imagination to just sit in that space and that energy that you desire. On the next breath, let's come back up to the hands and knees, coming out of that posture nice and slow. Dropping back into child's pose just maybe for a moment, just to get some nice extension, release into the arms, into the back. And then when you're ready, go ahead and flip on over to your back. Allowing those knees to come in towards the chest. Gently rocking those knees side to side. When you're ready, allowing those arms to fall off to the side, taking those knees to the left. So keeping the shoulders on the ground, just allowing those knees to fall off to the left-hand side. Maybe taking the head off to the right, letting yourself fully relax into this rotation. Great for the spine and also great for digestion. Moment, I want you to check in with the relaxed state of your body. Notice if it feels any different, even now, as opposed to when you started the practice. Maybe even notice if the rotation feels better than it did maybe a few weeks ago. Is your body lengthening? Is it releasing? On the next breath, gently take your head back to the center, again, moving nice and slow. Taking one knee at a time, back up to the center. Just being really easy on the spine. Taking those knees up to the chest when you're ready, gently rocking side to side. And when you're ready, allowing the arms to go out, knees to fall off to the right. Arm extends out, head to the left. Tune into the spine in this position and notice, does it feel different than the other side? It likely does. Breathe into it, encourage the body to relax and release. Really tapping into that state of equanimity is, of course, that spleen and stomach meridian When it's in balance, helps the body feel in that state of equanimity. On the next breath, slowly draw the head back to the center. Gently, one knee at a time, coming to the center. Rebalancing the spine, hugging the knees in towards the chest, gently rocking side to side. Now from here, coming into figure 4 on the right-hand side, allowing that right knee to come over top of that the right ankle to come over top of the left knee, taking your hands either underneath the left thigh or around the knee. And just allowing yourself to open up into that hip. Now, the muscles around that hip might want to tense up, so just notice if that's happening and encourage with the breath the body to just completely release and let go. Reconnecting to that breath, if perhaps you lost it, making sure that you're breathing as deeply as possible. So really breathing deep into that diaphragm. Long, slow, deep, full breaths in and out. Gently touch the left foot down to the ground. Just coming out of the pose nice and easy. Again, moving nice and slow. Just release that right leg down to the ground and then slowly change to the other side. So left ankle onto the right knee and drawing both legs up, reaching around the thigh or the knee on the right hand side. Allowing those nice deep breaths to draw in and out. And of course, if you've got a diffuser close by, I just love, when you're taking these deep breaths, sometimes having that diffuser going is a great reminder so that you can really inhale and exhale the oils and of course receive the great benefits of the oils. I've got both tea tree and cedarwood in mine tonight, and it sure makes it nice to breathe when you've got those nice oils in there. On the next breath, release the arms, the hands, take the feet down to the ground and then extend the legs right out, coming into Shavasana. Now, of course, legs can be straight, or if it feels better on the back, knees together, falling in together. Taking those feet nice and wide though, if you can, extending your body all the way down, tucking your shoulder blades under your back, maybe covering yourself up with a blanket, maybe a sweater, just getting really, really, really nice and warm. Now, while we're in this position, relaxing in our final resting pose, corpse pose, representing the death of the practice and embracing in the present moment all the benefits that the practice provides. I want you to open yourself up into your heart space, allowing the eyes to close if they aren't already. I want you to begin to observe what, and more importantly, who occupies your heart space. I want you to start to visualize in your mind the important people in your life, those who mean a lot to you. Remember, that can include pets. want you to visualize them one by one. See their faces before you and allow yourself to be reminded of how much they mean to you. Allow any frustrations or conflicts you might have had float away. And as you see each person, say, I am loved and I love. With each person that filters through your mind, briefly remember one or two happy memories with them and feel your heart fill with gratitude for having shared those memories. And again, as you go through each memory and person, say, I am loved and I love. Now, for a moment, we'll focus on an affirmation for the spleen. And that is, I nourish myself with love. So breathing into the spleen, encouraging that area of the body to have great health. As you say in your mind, I nourish myself with love. Now let's focus on the affirmation for the stomach, which is, I trust the mystery of life. I trust the mystery of life. Breathing into the stomach. Stay in Shavasana as long as you wish. But if you're ready to come out of it, start to allow the next breath to be a little bit deeper. Starting to wiggle the fingers and the toes, waking up the physical body. Gently pulling the knees in towards the chest and rocking side to side. When you're ready, rolling off to the right or left-hand side into fetal position. Just hugging into the knees, into the chest. Now when you're ready, coming on up to a seated position, a comfortable seated position. Allowing the hands to come to the heart center, or certainly add a drop or two of oil first. And finishing off with tea tree oil. Tea tree being a great oil for the skin, as well as really helps with breathing. I find it very relaxing as well, especially when mixed with an earth oil like cedarwood. Wherever you're at, just feel how you feel now as opposed to when you first came to your mat today. And I encourage you to remember this week to focus on self-care tip number 10, which is to journal your thoughts and spend some time in contemplation. Using it as a moment of self-care and of course maybe even a little therapy. Getting whatever you need to off your chest, or even writing gratitudes. Remember to take good care of yourself this week. Wishing you all much love, light, and many blessings. Namaste.